The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
When we looked at that birth certificate, and of course, that the drumbeat had gotten so loud, and what's bizarre is how it gets there. He has a private attorney do a night flight, and they bring a PDF file. They don't bring the document. In other words, they don't bring a credential. They bring, and on this credential, on this PDF file, which has been layered, it's provable to be layered, they say father's race, and they put on his as race African. Now, the best of my knowledge, and you're the expert, can you find any other birth certificates in Hawaii? Because African is not a race. Can you ever been across another birth certificate for anyone that claims the race of the dad or mother is African?
No, I have seen and obtained other birth certificates from African Americans born in Hawaii around the same time as Obama, and they all have the race of the father as Negro and not African.
Right. African's not a race. I mean,
African's not a race.
Right.
There's so many anomalies. That's just one of them.
Point out others. Point the others that stand out to you.
Well, others that stand out, for example, on Obama's birth certificate that was issued by the White House, you see that there's little tiny numbers written by hand throughout the birth certificate. Those numbers appear in light gray color. They're written in by pencil, and they're light gray. A photocopier, which is what Laura Fuddy, the one lady who died, who issued the birth certificate, the story was that they simply photocopied the birth certificate as they did for anybody out of the original book that it was located in. Now, a photocopy machine does not make different colors. You would not be able to see gray. The color gray would not exist. So on all the other birth certificates I've seen, those little pencil marks are black. Another thing that you'll see is on the edge on Obama's document, you see a strong shadow. Now, a shadow, again, will not appear on a copy machine because a very light, bright bulb flashes. The only way you get a shadow is if you're in a scanner. So it's clear that this gave more evidence that Obama's birth certificate is, in fact, the result of a computer scan production rather than a photocopy like they claim. So there's at least 40 or 50 areas that indicate that Obama's certificate is fraudulent. The bigger picture is, as I think I've shown in my film, Dreams from My Real Father, is that no matter where Obama was born, he's probably eligible to be president because I believe both his parents were American citizens.
Yeah, I do too.
However, he is guilty all the way down the line of the cover-up, which is a crime called document fraud. He submitted this birth certificate to these election commissions around the country as proof positive of his citizenship.
What about this? When you would say to yourself, but the entire story, and Joel and I have talked, Jack and I have talked about, I've talked with so many people, what he called the improbable story of the Kenyan goat herd and the girl from Kansas, the farm girl from Kansas, that kills it right there. It's not true.
Correct. Obama presented it. It actually first emerged as early as 1990 when Obama was elected to the president of the Harvard Law Review. They wrote about his life history. They interviewed him. And this is when the false narrative actually first emerged. If you look back at those articles, you can Google them at Harvard. He claimed this is the story. It starts right there. My father was a goat herder from Kenya.
Right.
My mother was an anthropologist like Margaret Mead, which was an exaggeration.
That's not true either, right, yeah.
Oh, and he puts forward this narrative that he promoted at Harvard, that he's going to bring people together because of this unique multicultural background. And he stuck with that successfully to hide his true roots and his true ideological foundation. Do
you think he was handed that story, that himself he makes that story up, or do you think with Stan, the granddad, Gramps, and Toot, that Madeline Payne, Madeline Dunham, do you think that they manufacture a story for him, help him with his story, or he simply comes up with this on his own? Because I believe he had help with the story.
I'll explain that. Obama was raised by Frank Marshall Davis.
I know.
He was very close to him his entire life. He knew that he was his real father. There was no question of that.
Do you think he knew that Barack Sr., the so-called Kenyan Obama, did you think that Barack Obama knows that that's not his biological father?
Absolutely. He was told from a very young age, and this is why he was raised by Davis, admittedly, in Obama's own words, from a very young age. The narrative was created in Chicago. Obama comes there after Columbia. He's there for 3 years, working in the communist organization. He's known Bill Ayers for already about 5-6 years by that time in 1982.
So Ayers is not just a guy from the neighborhood, right? That's not even remotely close.
He's the guy from the ideological neighborhood that he met in New York City. And they decide that Obama is thinking of, and they think they could promote him to become mayor of Chicago one day. This is early 80s. And they assist him through this network of the Arab funders. We've written about that, how Obama's Harvard law career was funded by the Libyans and the Saudis.
Oh, I know. And you know what makes that interesting is the ensconcing, if you would, of the $125,000 advance from Simon & Schuster that Jack's now talking about, and they never gave it back, and the Obama said we had to pay, or Barack Obama said we had to pay student loans, but I understood he was a scholarship kid.
Well, Obama's been making that case even as early as, last year. Him and Michelle say, I just paid back my student loans when I became a senator.
But there's no evidence of that.
It's a way to try to identify with people and hide the fact that Louis Farrakhan was going to Libya in the early 80s raising money from Gaddafi for black students and minority students, and Reverend Wright would go with him. He was part of it. So I believe that there's enough evidence to show that Obama got in on those scholarships, and in preparing to go for Harvard, this is when the false narrative was created by Obama with help from Bill Ayers and this close-knit gang. When you go to Harvard, don't say you're the son of Frank Marshall Davis and you're a red diaper baby. Just say that you're,
the goat herd.
You're the goat herder, and you're going to bring people together, and maybe you'll go somewhere.
Hang on a second, a hard break. Like I said, he'll take calls. We have some callers on the line. Joel Gilbert. This guy's fascinating again, our guest is Joel Gilbert. We have phone lines ready. I am going to, worst case, would you bring up line 1, please, for me? I don't want to screw this up. Bring up Dan. Dan, you're on the radio show. Good morning.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. I have to disagree with Joel Gilbert. I think that all those CDs he sent to Ohio in this last election basically destroyed Romney's chances, because there's no evidence that Frank Marshall Davis is Obama's father. I don't look like anything like my parents.
I do.
I don't look anything like him. And even you, Peter, you've never said that Frank Marshall. Yeah, if you're going to go after the president, you have to go after him with facts.
All right, hang on a second.
Okay, I'd be happy to answer that one.
All right, go ahead.
What we do in the film, if you've seen the film, which I suspect you have not, I would urge you to look at it. First, we look at Obama's story, which is my father was a goat herder from Kenya. My daddy left me when I was 2 years old. And we completely debunk that with all the evidence that shows that his mother went to Seattle when he was only 2 weeks old, and that he never met the Kenyan, and that the mother probably never met the Kenyan. We show all the documentary evidence. After debunking Obama's story completely, we then look at, what could be true. We see that Obama was raised by Davis, that he admits that he had a lifelong relationship with him. We look at the fact that Obama's photos look exactly like Davis and nothing like the Kenyan. And then I've talked to neighbors of Davis, friends, relatives, and absent DNA, which a lot of people are convicted for murder in this country still to this day based on a mountain of circumstantial evidence. And we think that in the film we show a mountain of circumstantial evidence that Obama's book, Dreams from My Father, was a fraud and a conspiracy theory, which has no evidence to back it up. And my film, Dreams from My Real Father, is the story of Obama's life, which has all the evidence and everything that puts together the true story. As far as sending DVDs out to Ohio, this was the chance that anyone had, because the media was not telling the truth about Obama's background, that he was trained ideologically by a committed Marxist and a Soviet agent, and he was a child of this ideology, much like Bill Ayers and these other red diaper babies from the 60s. So this was the chance that people had to know the truth. And we've had thousands of emails and people saying, thank you, we learned something. And
But you're just like Dan Rather, okay, based on evidence that just isn't there. Okay, I don't look like my parents. You're basing this whole thing on he doesn't look like his parents. No, I don't look like my parents.
I do.
Okay? But I don't look like my parents.
Hang on, Dan.
I believe Moranis when he says that Obama lied 39 times.
I know you're very passionate, and the Organizing for Action meeting, I'm sure that they've helped you with this narrative.
Actually, I listen to Peter all the time. I believe that Obama lied in his book 39 times. I believe what Moranis says that Obama lied 39 times.
I urge you to watch the film.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in the middle. Let me ask Dan to caller. Dan, do you believe that he was 2.5 years of age when his father went to Harvard?
No, I believe that Obama. Okay, I believe that his mother left this abusive man, Obama, when he was 2 weeks old.
Whoa, now you're talking about. Hang on just a second.
I believe.
No, wait a minute, Dan. Wait
when he was 2 weeks old.
Wait a minute. All right. How do you come to a conclusion that Barack Sr. was abusive?
Well, she got the hell away from him.
No. That doesn't. Now you just done what you accused this man of doing. What evidence do you have that Barack Obama Sr. was abusive?
Well, I just believe that stuff. He was
isn't
drunk.
that interesting? Isn't
he
that
was
interesting?
Drunk and he got it.
No.
Didn't she?
Well, of course she did. But
his mom didn't leave him when he was 2 weeks old.
Listen to me again. You made a statement. Now, on the other hand, Gilbert, I think, is pretty on the money. I mean, I look like my dad, and my brother looks like my dad. My brother looks like me. My sister really looks like my grandma. I have a grandson. This kid looks like mini-me. And so...
I don't look like my parents.
I don't care. Joel, do you look like your mom or dad?
I do.
Yeah. I mean, in most cases...
But listen, Dan, let me say one thing.
I think you didn't have the facts.
Dan, hold on one second.
I think if your narrative was the same as Peter Walls,
Dan, hang on.
It would have made
Dan,
a
one
difference.
second. Hang on, Dan. Here's what the film shows. Number one, the Kenyan is not the father. Number two, Davis is obviously the most likely father.
Picture.
All right. Well, that picture is up. Why don't you take a look at the picture, Dan? It's up on the web. All right. And what do you conclude?
Yeah. What I want to tell you, Dan, is what we show in the film is that whether or not you personally need DNA to show you beyond a doubt, we show that Davis became the ideological father, which is more important and more dangerous for the country.
No, he doesn't have to. I disagree. He doesn't have to. Dan, listen, thank you so much.
Okay.
Let's go here. We'll go to this. Hey, Tom, you're on the radio show. Good morning. Thank you. It's 8:31. Tom. Did we lose Tom?
No, I'm here.
You're on the air, sir.
Okay, thank you. Joel, good morning. I read it with great interest Paul Kengor.
Yes.
Book, The Communist, Part 1.
Yeah.
Very good.
Davis. All right. Tell us about Jarrett and Axelrod's connection to Obama and the White House. People don't even know about that, who Axelrod really is, and Jarrett.
You're talking about Valerie Jarrett plus the influence of her father, too. That's important.
Yes, that's right.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.